Welcome to the final project presentation for Group 2 Consumer Complaints. I give a brief introduction about the project. So the project is about the consumer complaints within the financial market across the US states due to the yearly increase in the losses of the financial institutes because of the complaints against them and the laws and the enforcements and the actions taken against them. As you see, this is a graph from the CFBP that is showing the amount of losses caused due to the complaints. So we framed a business problem. So the customer complaints cause the companies a lot of money, and poor handling for the complaints costs more. In a customer-driven market, the customer sets the rule. The banking industry is looking for a feasible solution to thrive in the constantly evolving competitive environment and transform the customer complaints into a business success. So we received a data set from the banking sector, and this data set includes all the complaints across several years, and we went through this project phase to analyze the data set. So then we went through descriptive analytics, understanding the data set, and the diagnostic analytics, like clustering and understanding more these clusters and what is inside them, understand the products and the correlations and the factor affecting the products, the financial products, then predictive analytics, modeling the disputed complaints and understand if the complaint is going to turn into a dispute or not after the action from the financial institute. And then we put a prescriptive action, a plan how to use the model and how going forward what will be done, and then the model development and deployment plan. So a quick understanding about the data set. The data set is a huge data set. It contains 670,598 observations, and it's issued by the CFBP in the US. As the years for the complaint inside the data set is from 2011 up to 2016, partial, not complete 2016. Number of attributes is 18. So during this presentation, I will go through the full work we did. So we had the data set. We did like some understandings about what is inside the data set. Then we choose California as our sample because it has the biggest number of complaints, 97,640. Then we slashed also the data set, and we focused on 2012. As a sample for the study, and we did use this data set, which was 11,084 observations. We used logistic regression after the clustering with the K-moods, hierarchical clustering, and the K-prototype. We did a model of logistic regression. This is some understanding about the full data set. So as you see here, California has the highest complaints across the full US. As you see here, we had within the data set several places that is related to the armed forces and not part of the US states. We have eliminated all this from the data set. It was minor compared to the size of the data set. Here, this is data frame for California. It's 97,640 observations with 18 attributes. We removed the ID of the complaint, and we added a date difference between the date received of the complaint and the date sent or complaint to the financial institute. So we use it in our study and cluster. Here this graph shows the products. So the mortgage is the one having the highest number of complaints across all the products there. And then we have the debt collection and credit reporting. Here, this is across the years. So we choose in California, we choose year 2012 because of the computing power we have. Because the others were not giving us, like the models were not working on our computers. That's why we used 2012 as a sample to be duplicated over the full data set later on. This is a graph showing the ways complaints are submitted. So mostly they are submitted through web and referral, which was a surprise for me that referral is still having a big percentage, which is almost 19%. Then we have uh, we have here the financial institutes replies. Mainly, the highest reply is closed with explanation. This doesn't mean that the customer or the consumer is happy and will not dispute this. This is timely response. If there is a timely response from the financial institute or not, and 97% yes. Then the consumer disputed, so we had yes and no, and we had a 5.9% that is slashed out of the data set. So we worked with the yes and no consumers because this may be still yet under the complaint is not yet finalized. Now we will enter into the diagnostic analytic phase, which we built three models: the hierarchical model, K-moods, and K-prototype. We use them because of the categorical variables within the data set. We built for the K-moods and K-prototypes clusters between 2 to 8 just to make a full analysis. I'll not talk about all the analysis in the presentation, but everything is within the file for the report. The first step we did theoretically plot for the data set of 2012, and it shows that number of clusters optimal is 2, but we can see that 3, 4, and 5 are still within the acceptable or the same range of 2, and then 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 are also very near to 2. So this doesn't mean that 2 is a perfect one. This is a hierarchical clustering model. As you can see, this is a dendrogram plot, and we cut the tree to have 8 clusters. As you see, there is a big cluster, and later on we will see that it's related mainly to the mortgage customers. So here is frequency across all the across all the 8 clusters, and cluster 4 is having the highest frequency. This plot shows the distribution of products within the clusters. So inside these 8 clusters of the hierarchical model, after analysis, we discovered that mostly the hierarchical model is following the products clustering. So as you can see, number 4 is mainly the highest concentration of mortgage. 3 and 5 is the highest concentration for banking services. 2 is credit cards, 2 and 1, and student loan are in cluster 7, and the credit reporting is number 6, and number 6 has a bit from everything because credit reporting is involved with mostly most of the financial loaning products. That's why it's distributed. You can see that it has similarities from different products. This is the same plot showing the financial institutes, and it reflects the same what we discovered from the products. So, for example, the Bank of America and Wells Fargo and Co are the highest in the mortgage lending. So as you can see, they are concentrated in four. If we look at Equifax, we'll find mostly it's in cluster 6 that has credit checks. And here, this is the response, the consumer response and the financial institute response within the 8 clusters. Now, this is K-mode clusters. The code is in the RDM file submitted, and the report, as you can see, this is the graphs for the 2 to 8 clusters, and we found that the one with the 6 clusters is the one having a higher segregation based on products, not like the hierarchical ones. They are in one cluster, but they are distributed within different clusters, but they are clearly segregated. Like all like clusters 1 to 4 is having mainly the loans, and bank account services is in 5, and credit reporting is in 6. Here, this is what I was talking about. This is the K prototypes, and similarly, as the K prototype, part of it is like mainly is working with the K modes and K means. So the K, so um, the the clusters are similar to the one from the K modes, and as you can see here, number 6 also has a high segregation with products. So clusters 1 to 3 are mainly for mortgage. Clusters 4 and 6 are for the credit cards. And cluster 5 is having the higher concentration for the banking services. The credit score is distributed over all the clusters, as I mentioned before, because it's mainly related to every uh, to every product that has lending. So there is a big similarities within its complaints and the other product complaints. Then we did the around index number validation between the clusters, and this is results. And as you can see, the higher clusters are showing good similarities between each other, between the K modes and K prototype. For example, 6 and 7 are 0.72 and 0.75. Here between K-modes and HC, it's number 6 that to talk about is 0.63 similarity, and in prototype and HC you can see that 0.65 similarity. Uh, then we did a test for the prediction power using the data frames without clustering and with clustering. So we had a very interesting discovery that the one with no clustering has a very low predictive power, which is 0.08 for the highest attribute. When we added, we did, by the way, this test for all the models we built, but we choose the highest ones here. So for the HC clustering, so the clusters had a very high, had a result of a very high predictability power, which is 0.67. For the K prototype, it was the highest 2.48, so it pushed the predictive model very good. And then the K mode has 0.78. Uh, then we applied the logistic regression. The code is also in the report and in the RDM file. It's not presented here, but the logistic regression, this is the result of the logistic regressions. We have the ROC curve, and as you see the area under the curve, the biggest one is related to the K for the K prototype, then the hierarchical cluster, and then the final one is the one without any clustering. So this means that clustering has gives the models a very good predictivity power. This is a confusion matrix as a result between the three models. So this one with no uh, uh, sorry. So as you can see here, the sensitivity is 0.96 and specificity is zero point 0.6, zero point 0.8. This is the K prototype cluster, and this is the HC cluster. Sensitivity is 0.97, specificity is 0.198, and the balanced accuracy is 0.58 here, 0.78. And then the final one is a confusion matrix for without any clustering. The sensitivity is 1, specificity is very low. Accuracy is 0.74, but it's not a real indication. Balanced accuracy is zero point 0.5, so this means that the data sets with the clustering data as an attribute have added more to the predictive power of the model. The conclusion is that based on the three clustering models, the hierarchical one is mainly affected by the product, very highly affected into its segregation. The majority of the complaints are product, like the clusters are product based, I can say, but while the K modes and K prototypes has a blend and shows a new clustering, like new segregation based on different factors. The one with the clusters number 6 showed a good segregation for based on products. Then the logistic regression finding is that the clustering pushed the predictive power and the chi number and all the statistic testing values up and improved the model predictivity and accuracy more than the one without the clustering analysis. Then our recommendations and the deployment. So we recommend that the same analysis to be followed over the whole data set or at least over years and states. And then the finding, like there is two ways to deal with findings. So the diagnostic analysis for the complaints. So extract the clusters with higher unsatisfied consumers based on the disputed complaints, and then try to do analysis for the narrative, the text analysis to understand what is the root cause of this and try to deal with the root cause. So this is a diagnostic part, and to rank the complaints and rank the financial institutes based on this analysis. And then the preventive analysis part is that building models, predictive models to predict the customer, the new complaints coming from the customers, which cluster it goes after we know the properties of each cluster and segregate the complaints based on what is a high problem complaint versus like a simple complaint like stopping advertising or something like this, and building another model to predict the disputes over the complaints. Uh, so the bank can deal with earlier disputes before they happen. Thanks for your time and for attending this.